Cold outreach, by its very nature, means that you are an unknown entity, which means your prospect has very little incentive to get to know you. Hey there, everyone. It's Jody Sutter from the Sutter Company, and it's Just Ask Jody. It's that time when I take a question from an agency around an issue they're having with business development, and I'll answer that question in 4 minutes or less. And today the question is, what's the best channel for cold outreach? In this case, she specifically wanted to know LinkedIn or email. And it's a good question, but here's the truth. Channel does matter, LinkedIn or email, but I don't think it's the most important thing because the strategy behind your outreach matters more than the channel that you're using. So when I coach clients on building an outreach plan, I like to map their outreach. I like to map it to a version of the buyer's journey. So think of it as a progression that starts with your prospect having zero awareness of who you are. You're a total unknown. And your job is to move them up the buyer's journey arc from unknown to a level of awareness of who you are, who your agency is, then to a deeper sense of familiarity, and eventually to a point where they express interest. And now that interest hopefully turns into an articulated need, and then you can have that formal conversation around scope and timeline and budget, and hopefully it ends in a win. Cold outreach, though, sits at the very bottom of that buyer's journey arc. You're an unknown. And what that means is that your prospect really has very little incentive to pay attention to you, let alone trust you. So what's the goal at this stage? As far as I'm concerned, your sole objective is to quickly qualify yourself as a business they might consider hiring. And I emphasize both those words equally, quickly and qualify. Don't try to cram your cred deck into a cold message. Don't link to 5 case studies or drop a link to a sizzle reel. That's just too much too soon. Instead, focus on one thing, making it easy for the prospect to assess whether you're potentially relevant to them. That means keep the message short, make it specific, and anchor it in their world, not yours. Now, back to the channel. Should you use email or LinkedIn or something else? And the answer is yes. In other words, you don't have to rely on just one. In fact, I think you can use a combination of things quite strategically. For example, maybe you send a short personalized email and that introduces who you are and why you're reaching out. And then a few days later, you follow up with a thoughtful LinkedIn connection request or comment on something they've shared. So what you're doing is you're reinforcing your presence in a low pressure way. That's it for this Just Ask Jody. If you've got a question for a Just Ask Jody in the future, you can email that to me at jody@thesuttercompany.com, and I'll see you next time.